Do you really believe that making money online is just a matter of finding the right method and watching the money fall into your account while you sleep? If this idea has crossed your mind, you're not alone. Every day, thousands of people go online with the same expectation to find a quick way to make money online, get out of debt, achieve financial freedom, and finally have a more peaceful life. And, at first, everything seems to make sense. Promises of passive income, stories of people who got rich in a few months, ads saying that anyone can start from scratch and earn big without experience. It even seems too easy. But let me ask you a very direct question. If that were really the case, why do so many people try and simply fail? Why do most give up halfway through, frustrated, thinking the problem lies with them? Have you ever experienced this? Perhaps you've already tried something. You might have tried working with digital marketing, affiliate marketing, dropshipping, or even creating content on social media. In the beginning, there's that excitement, that feeling that now it's going to work. You study, watch videos, try to apply, but the results don't appear as promised. And then the doubt arises. Is making money online really possible, or is it just another well-sold illusion? What you're about to discover might surprise you, because the problem isn't the internet, and it's not you either. The real problem lies in how you've been led to view online money from the start. There's a very strong narrative being repeated all the time, that making money online is quick, simple, and accessible to anyone, almost as if it were a shortcut to wealth. And it's precisely this idea that traps so many people in a cycle of trial and error, jumping from strategy to strategy, always searching for the next secret that will finally unlock results. But there's one detail that almost no one talks about, and that completely changes the game. Making money online isn't a trick. It's not a hidden hack, and it's definitely not about luck. It's about something much deeper, much more strategic, and at the same time, much more real than most people are prepared to face. And perhaps that's why you haven't yet reached where you'd like to be. Because while many people are focused on finding the next miracle method, there's a smaller group of people who have understood something different. Something that doesn't appear in flashy promises, but that makes all the difference when it comes to personal finance and building real wealth. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to understand can completely change the way you see not only online money, but also your own potential for financial growth. And before you think this is just another video repeating what you've already heard, let me tell you, what follows isn't about magic formulas or illusory shortcuts. It's about seeing the game as it really is, and understanding why some people manage to build a consistent income online, while most remain stuck in the same place. And it is precisely here that everything begins to change, because, at its core, it all starts with a simple realization that almost no one dares to face. There are no sustainable shortcuts when it comes to making money online and building real wealth. There is direction, there is strategy, and above all, there is awareness of the game you are playing. And I really want to know something. Where are you in all of this? Are you still in that phase of trying various things and not seeing results? Or have you already started to realize that maybe the path is different from what they sold you? If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below about what has resonated with you the most so far. It could be a question, a frustration, or even something you've already tried that didn't work. Honestly, I read the comments, and often that's where the next content that can help you even more directly comes from. And if you're here, reflecting on all this with me, it's already a sign that you don't want to fall for the same empty promises anymore. So take this moment and click like, because it may seem simple, but it makes a huge difference. When you like the video, you help this content reach more people who are also trapped in this cycle of trial and error, thinking that the problem is them when, in fact, it's the way they were taught to view online money. And if you want to continue understanding how building income online really works, without illusions and with a mindset focused on long-term financial growth, subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss the next videos and you'll become part of a group of people who are seeking something more solid, more conscious, and much more strategic. Your participation here isn't just a detail. It's what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content. And, ultimately, the more people understand this, the fewer frustrated people there will be who think they'll never succeed. Because the truth is, it is possible to make money online. But not in the way you imagine, and that's exactly what we need to start seeing clearly now. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because there's a part of this journey that almost no one shows, the silent behind the scenes of those who try, fail, adjust, and continue even without immediate validation. And this is where many people get lost. Not for lack of ability, but for making decisions based on unrealistic expectations. The hidden truth is that the beginning is almost always confusing, slow, and even demotivating. You start believing in rapid transformation, but you find a process that requires repetition, patience, and clarity. And this has a direct impact on your mindset. Because, while you see others seemingly growing fast, you start to question your own worth. That feeling of falling behind arises, as if everyone else has discovered something you haven't yet understood. But what is rarely shown is that these success stories have much more depth than they appear. There is trial, error, frustration, and, above all, invisible consistency. Perhaps you've already experienced this firsthand. That moment when you think about giving up, not because you don't want to anymore, but because you start to doubt whether you can really do it. And it's precisely at this point that most abandon their own journey, without realizing that they were much closer to understanding the game than they imagined. Because making money online isn't just a matter of strategy, it's an internal process. It's about aligning your actions with a more solid, conscious, and less impulsive vision. It's about getting out of autopilot and starting to see each attempt as part of a larger process, not as an isolated failure. And when you start to realize this, something changes. Not explosively, but consistently. Decisions become clearer, anxiety decreases, and you begin to act with more intention. And that's when the game really starts to change. Comment below, I'm on this journey too. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there's an invisible mechanism behind all of this that few people realize. And it sustains the biggest lie about making money online. It's not just about exaggerated promises, it's about how these promises shape your decisions from the very beginning. You go in believing you need to find the perfect method, the secret strategy, the shortcut that will speed everything up. When, in reality, this constant search is exactly what keeps you stuck. This is the hidden truth. The more you chase quick fixes, the further you stray from real construction. Because every new promise creates an expectation, and every unfulfilled expectation generates frustration. And then you change course, change strategy, start something new. And the cycle repeats itself. It seems like movement, but deep down it's just an illusion of progress. Behind the scenes, what really happens is quite different. The people who build consistent results aren't jumping from opportunity to opportunity. They're deepening, adjusting, making mistakes, and refining the same foundation long enough to generate impact. But that doesn't sell easily, doesn't grab attention in ads, and doesn't seem exciting at first glance. And that's the most critical point of this journey. Your mindset begins to be shaped by unrealistic comparisons. You see quick results and think you're behind schedule, when in reality you're just following a normal pace of progress. But nobody shows this clearly. The biggest lie isn't just saying it's easy. It's making you believe that if it's not easy for you, then you're doing something wrong. And that completely changes how you see yourself within the process. But when you start to see this pattern, something changes internally. You stop reacting impulsively and begin to act more consciously. Your decisions cease to be based on anxiety and become more directed, intentional, and clear. Comment below, this makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because the part that truly changes the game isn't the most comfortable to hear, but it's the most liberating. There's a truth that many people avoid facing. Making money online doesn't escape the basic laws of real life. There isn't a parallel version of the internet where effort, skill, and consistency cease to matter. What exists is a distortion of reality that makes it seem like everything happens faster than it actually does. And when you truly accept this, without resistance, something begins to reorganize itself within you. Because, until then, perhaps your decisions were being guided by urgency, comparison, and the expectation of immediate results. But from the moment you understand that this is a journey of building, and not of luck, your mindset begins to change profoundly. The uncomfortable truth is that you'll need to develop skills. You'll need to make mistakes, adjust, and learn from feedback that isn't always easy to accept. You'll need to keep going even when the results haven't yet appeared. And yes, this requires more than motivation. It requires clarity and commitment to the process. But at the same time, that's the liberating part. Because when you understand that control lies in your actions and not in external factors or miraculous promises, you stop depending on shortcuts. You start building something that makes sense. Something that grows based on conscious decisions and not on momentary impulses. And this is where one of the greatest revelations of this journey occurs. It's not about finding the easiest path. It's about becoming capable of consistently navigating any path. This completely changes the impact of your choices. Because you stop looking for ready-made solutions and start creating your own results. And when that turning point happens, even if silently, you begin to realize that you're playing a different game than most people. Comment below, I'm starting to understand. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because it is precisely at this point that the true transformation happens. The one that isn't visible from the outside, but completely changes the way you play this game. Up until now, perhaps you were trying to make money online focusing only on the end result, as if everything revolved around how much you can make. But the real game was never about that. What truly changes everything is when you stop asking yourself, how do I make money fast? And start asking yourself, who do I need to become to consistently generate value? It seems like a subtle shift, but the impact on your decisions is enormous. Because from that moment on, you stop acting impulsively and start building with intention. This is the mindset shift that separates those who keep trying from those who truly begin to evolve. While most are stuck on shortcuts and immediate rewards, a smaller group understands that wealth is a consequence of a well-structured internal process. It's not just about technique, it's about identity. It's about how you perceive effort, learning, time, and, above all, persistence. Behind the scenes, this means accepting that financial growth doesn't come from isolated peaks, but from a sequence of aligned actions. It means developing strategic patience, not passive patience, but active patience focused on improving a little every day. And this completely changes your journey, because you stop depending on quick validation and start trusting the process more. And when that mindset starts to solidify, you realize you're no longer chasing random opportunities. You begin to create opportunities based on what you know, what you practice, and the value you deliver. And that brings a clarity that previously seemed impossible to achieve. This is when the game stops being confusing and starts to make real sense. Comment below. I changed my mindset. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because when this mindset starts to click, it becomes much easier to understand the real pillars that support any consistent result in the digital world. And there's no mystery here, no hidden formula. What exists are fundamentals that, when ignored, completely hinder your progress. But when applied, change the course of your journey. The first of these is skill. And it doesn't matter if you want to work with content, sales, design, traffic, or any other area. If you don't develop something that truly generates value, you remain dependent on luck. Skill is what gives you autonomy. It's what transforms attempts into real progress. Behind the scenes, that's what separates those who improvise from those who build. The second pillar is leverage. And here the internet comes in as a strategic tool, not as magic. It's about using platforms, systems, and content to multiply the reach of what you do. Without this, you might still make money, but always in a limited way. With this, you begin to expand your impact intelligently. And the third, which many people underestimate, is consistency. Not that random repetition, but consistency with direction, based on conscious decisions. Because it's no use having the skill and internet access if you don't sustain the process long enough for the results to appear. And when these three pillars connect, something changes. The game stops being disorganized, trial and error, and starts to have structure. You begin to understand why it seemed so difficult before, and why it's starting to make sense now. Comment below. Now it's clear. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because understanding the pillars is important, but understanding why most people fail is what truly changes your decisions from now on. And the truth is that almost no one fails due to a lack of opportunity. People fail because they enter this game with a misaligned mindset and completely distorted expectations. Behind the scenes, the pattern repeats itself. The person starts motivated, chooses a path, but doesn't see immediate results. Then comes doubt, insecurity, and before even giving the process time, they change direction. Then they change again. And again. It seems like adaptation, but in practice it's a lack of depth. It's like planting several seeds and not caring for any of them enough to grow. Another critical point is focusing on the tools and ignoring the fundamentals. Many people believe they need the right app, the most up-to-date strategy, the method that nobody is using yet. But this creates a dangerous dependency, because you never develop real mastery over anything. And without mastery, any obstacle becomes a reason to stop. And perhaps the most silent mistake of all is giving up too soon. Not because the person doesn't want to, but because they interpret the time it takes to build something as a lack of ability. This is one of the biggest illusions on this journey, thinking that slow results mean the wrong path. But when you start to notice these patterns, something changes. You stop reacting emotionally and start acting more consciously. Your decisions cease to be impulsive and become strategic. And this, little by little, completely transforms your position within the game. Because avoiding these mistakes isn't about doing more, it's about doing better, with more clarity and intention. Comment below. I'm not going to give up. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because sometimes all we need is to see this reality happening in practice. Far from promises and closer to the real behind-the-scenes aspects. Imagine someone starting exactly like you, with no audience, no results, and full of doubts. In the beginning, this person also believed they needed to find the perfect method. They tried several things, started enthusiastically, but always stopped halfway when the results didn't come quickly. But at a certain point, something changed. It wasn't a miracle course, nor a secret strategy. It was a change in mindset. Instead of continuing to jump from opportunity to opportunity, she made a different decision, to choose a path and see it through to the end, adjusting along the way. At first, it seemed slow. Little return, little validation. But, behind the scenes, something important was happening: real evolution. Over time, that person began to develop skills, better understand what worked, make mistakes more consciously, and succeed more often. Consistency began to generate small results, which turned into confidence. And this confidence brought more clarity to decisions. What was once doubt became direction. The most interesting thing is that, from the outside, it seems like things started working out of nowhere. But those who lived through it know it wasn't out of nowhere. It was a process of building, persistence, and constant adjustment. It was understanding that transformation doesn't happen in peaks, but through a silent accumulation of well-executed actions. And perhaps that's one of the biggest revelations of this journey. What changes the game isn't the moment you get it right, but how long you persevere until that moment arrives. And when you start to see this clearly, you realize that you too can walk this path. Not perfectly, but consistently. Comment below, I can do it too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because after seeing all this, the path starts to seem simpler, but make no mistake, simple doesn't mean easy. There's an important difference here that completely changes how you approach this journey. The simple path is one that is clear, direct, and without illusions. But it requires conscious decisions, repetition, and a mindset prepared to handle the process. In practice, it all starts with a choice, developing a skill that has real value. Not something random, not something based on a passing trend, but something that solves a real problem. From there comes the phase that many people try to skip applying. And applying means getting into the game, making mistakes, adjusting, learning from what happens behind the scenes, and continuing even when it doesn't seem to be working. Over time, this repetition begins to generate clarity. You understand better what works, you start making more strategic decisions, and you realize you're no longer as lost as before. And then comes a game-changing stage, scaling. Not in the sense of doing more impulsively, but of using intelligence, systems, and consistency to expand what is already working. This sequence seems obvious when you look at it like that, but most people never reach the end because they give up halfway through the journey. Not for lack of ability, but for not accepting the real pace of the construction. And when you begin to respect this process, something changes internally. Anxiety decreases, clarity increases, and your actions become more intentional. You stop looking for shortcuts and start building something solid, based on more conscious decisions. And it's at this point that everything really starts to connect, as if you're finally seeing the path more clearly. Comment below, am I on the right track? Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because everything we've covered so far leads to a reflection that can completely change how you see this journey. At some point, you need to stop and honestly ask yourself, are you seeking a result? Or are you building the person capable of sustaining that result? This question seems simple, but it carries a hidden truth that many people ignore. Because as long as you're focused only on money, metrics, and immediate results, your decisions will continue to be guided by haste, comparison, and anxiety. And in the long run, that always comes at a price. But when your mindset starts to shift toward growth, learning, and building, the impact is completely different. You begin to see each mistake as part of the process. Each attempt as a necessary adjustment, and each small advance as a sign of real progress. The journey ceases to be a burden and begins to make sense. Behind the scenes, this shift is silent. There's no applause, no instant validation, but something far more powerful is happening. Consistency with direction. And that's what sustains any true transformation, whether in the digital world or any other area of life. And perhaps the greatest revelation of all is this. It's not about finding the perfect method. It's about becoming someone who can make any method work. When you truly understand this, you stop depending on external factors and begin to take control of your decisions. And it is precisely at this point that the game changes. Not because the external scenario has changed, but because you have changed the way you see and act within it. Comment below, I understood the game. And if you've made it this far, you've probably already realized that this isn't just another video about making money online. It's about seeing all of this more clearly and making different decisions from now on. So, if this conversation resonated with you on any level, consider subscribing to the channel. Not as an obligation, but as a way to continue following this type of content that goes beyond the obvious and helps you build something more solid over time. And I also like to know who actually made it to the end, because it shows who is truly committed to this journey. So write in the comments, this message was for me. It's simple, but it creates a very strong connection between everyone who is seeking to evolve together. If at any point you felt that this resonated with your reality, please like the video. This helps spread the message to more people who may be going through the exact same process without fully understanding what's happening. And before you go, there's a video here that perfectly complements everything we talked about today. It's definitely worth continuing to watch. Click and follow along.